Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. Good to have you. We are broadcasting live. We are in Nuts D2. We are in Marshfield, Wisconsin. Thanks for joining us this evening. And we got our guy, Rob Reichel, who is, I believe, Rob is heading over towards Detroit. Rob, are you on your way over to the Motor City?
You know, Bill, I don't make that trip, so I won't be at that game, no.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you were heading over with, like, Mike Clemens riding shotgun or not, because I know some people are stuck in the airport in Chicago, and Mike is a driver, man. He's down cruising around Lake Michigan right now. So, but good to have you. Hey, Rob, so I read your article, and you were talking about what the guys did last year to kind of put the train on the track, really, because that's where everything started to take off for the Packers when they went in there on Thanksgiving Day and got that win. Coming away from that locker room, talking to guys like Kenny Clark and company, what was your takeaway from that conversation and what they did last year and how that translates to this year?
Yeah, Bill, they got after Jared Goff big time on that Thanksgiving game last year, and they're going to have to do it again tomorrow night or Thursday night if they're going to win the football game. They sacked him 3 times, Bill, which isn't an extraordinary number, but they pressured him 12 times. I mean, they were in the backfield all day. It was probably Rashawn Gary's best game of the year. As a defensive front, it was certainly in their best 2 or 3 games of the season. I think everybody remembers Carl Brooks forcing the fumble on Goff, and then Jonathan Owens bringing it back for the early touchdown, which kind of set the stage in that football game. Bill, Goff is an absolute surgeon when he is given time and he's allowed to sit in the pocket and pick teams apart. And he has one of the 3 best offensive lines in the league in front of him. He's got dynamic weapons in the run game and the pass game, obviously with Gibbs and Montgomery and St. Brown and Laporta and Williams. I mean, he's got weapons all over the place still. And when he's given time, he is absolutely tremendous. His passer rating's about 110 when he can just sit in the pocket and pick people apart. Bill, when you make him move, he's a limited athlete. When he has to get outside the pocket and make plays on his own, even if you get him off his spot only a step or 2, Bill, he's been better against pressure this year, but top to bottom, his career, he is not good whatsoever against pressure. I won't bore people with all the numbers, but he was 29th in the league, for example, last year. He's not very good against pressure. He was never fast, Bill. He came out of college as a 4.82 guy, which is slow for a quarterback, slow on those 3-cone drills, slow on the shuttle drills. Doesn't have big hands. He has really small hands. So, Bill, when you can get him on the move and put pressure on him, and now he's got to, try to make a play with his legs and squeeze that football with those small hands even tighter and get outside the pocket and make a play, it's hard for him. The number one key by far in that football game, I think from a Packer perspective, maybe it's 2-pronged, Bill. They've got to take away Gibbs and Montgomery, but as much as anything, they absolutely have to get pressure on Goff because if he's given time back there, they're going to put up 34, 37, 40 points. He's going to pick them apart.
Rob, so let me go to the defensive side of the football and talk a little bit more about that because we have seen Rashawn Gary play better. We heard from Hafley who say this last 2 weeks are the best he's ever played. You also talk about Rashawn Gary moving around, Quay Walker moving around, Van Ness moving around. Do you get the sense that, and I know Matt LaFleur alluded to physicality after the game against the Dolphins, you get the sense that they're no longer using the cerebral side where you have to worry about where you're at, right place, right time, and that they're just going to the physical side of the football now?
Yeah, I think they're trending that way, Bill. I wouldn't say they're all the way there yet. Obviously, that was one of the major reasons, that they made the switch at defensive coordinators. It was too much thinking and not enough just playing and reacting. I'm not sure some of these guys like Quay Walker and, maybe a Devontae Wyatt are ever going to be fully there, Bill. on the fact that that they're going to totally catch up on the mental side and just being able to let it totally go and to play loose and free. But they are trending that way undoubtedly as a defense. I would say, Bill, and it makes sense, right? They're 12 games in now to the first year of Hafley. This was supposed to be a much more of a react and read kind of defense, just a reaction type defense more than reading and paralysis by analysis, which is what so many people said plagued the Joe Barry defenses was supposed to be gone here with Hafley. It's taken some time, undoubtedly, Bill, but you look at these 3 games since the bye. Chicago scores 19, San Francisco scores 10, Miami scores 17, and really, Miami was down 27-3 in that football game, Bill. That thing was over at that point in time, right? That's only 15.3 points a game allowed since the bye. So they're trending in the right way, Bill. I mean, they're slightly better than average, I would say, overall as a defense. I would still say as a unit, I've been a little disappointed with what I've seen over the course of the season with where they rank and some of the pressure numbers and things like that. I expected more, especially when you kind of break down the individual talent on that side of the ball. But Bill, at the same point in time, that they're going in the right direction as we get to the last month of the season here and then to the playoffs. And I would certainly say that's encouraging for everybody in the organization.
Go to the offensive side. We've seen Jordan Love start to play much better football. He's made some better decisions, hasn't turned the ball over. I know that, I hate the Favre comparison because I think it's just not there, so to speak, because Favre tried to throw the ball through people. Jordan Love at times has just made some bad mistakes trying to do a little bit too much. But that being said, do you think he's kind of got the injuries now in his rearview mirror and he's just now starting to get comfortable again?
Yeah, I think that's it as much as anything. And you hit it there, Bill. He's healthy, right? I mean, none of us know exactly how bad that knee was at the start of the year. A lot of us felt that, that heck, at the time, Bill, it looked like a season ender, and people were thinking a month early on. It wound up being 2 games. Then he comes back, and he obviously wasn't very good in that Minnesota game, his first game back, but he's starting to get into a groove, and he enters the groin against Jacksonville, and now he's got to play through that, and he didn't miss any time there. But the first time they saw Detroit, he certainly wasn't, wasn't the Jordan Love you saw in 2023 when he was largely injury-free. And I think that bye week and coming back from that bye week has been huge for him. The rest he got in that period of time. You mentioned it, Bill. He's got back-to-back games here now with no interceptions. His last 3 passer ratings, the 129 he put up against Miami on Thanksgiving was his highest of the season, Bill. He's 108 against the 49ers. He was 113 in that Bears game. So since the bye, Bill, his passer rating is about 120, which is absolutely outstanding, off the charts. And they're going to need him to play at that level. And really, Bill, he should against Detroit. We haven't gotten into it here, you and I, but, Detroit is so beat to nonsense on that defensive line that I think that this is going to be a Josh Jacobs game where he's going to touch the ball maybe as many as 30 times, and it's going to set up a lot downfield, even without Romeo Doubs, who was declared out earlier today, and they won't have him in that football game. But there's still enough weapons in the pass game that this could turn into a Christian Watson game, for example, Bill. This could be a big-time Tucker Kraft game. They're going to get some stuff down the field, I think, because the Lions are going to have to creep that one of those safeties into the box to take away Jacobs. And there's going to be a lot of opportunities, I would say, in this football game for Love to kind of pick his spots and go up top to a Jaden Reed or a Christian Watson and maybe hit a couple home runs along the way.
This is a big game for Detroit. I know that they've got the win streak going, and it's something that they haven't done since Moses was a baby, and they're excited for this game. But for the Packers, if they have any shot at all, which we know it's a minimal shot, even if they win the ball game to win the division, this is we go back to the must win against Miami. It's not necessarily to get in the postseason, but it's a must win if you have any aspiration to win the division. And I'm glad that the Packers are playing these games as must wins. You know what I mean? You kind of got a playoff atmosphere already in early December.
Bill, you and I have been around a long time. The division is just nuts, isn't it?
Right.
We've never seen anything like this. The division is 20 games over 500 top to bottom. Bill, even the Bears have a plus point differential at this point in time. I mean, overall, Bill, as a division, you know, the division has outscored its opponents by it's about 340 points. It's absolutely insane. When you talk, the Lions are 10 over, the Vikings are 8 over, and the Packers are 6 over. So yes, these are big time football games that they're going to have here in the month of December with Detroit, with Minnesota. They obviously have to take care of business against Chicago in the final game of the year if they want to get where they're going to get from a divisional standpoint. But Bill, I mean, I know a lot of people say the road is long and it's these impossible odds and all this kind of stuff to win the division. I'll tell you what, if Green Bay wins this game against Detroit, I mean, I think Minnesota's going to trend downward here in the next month. They seem to be playing with some house money, kind of like they did 2 years ago when they went 13-4, won the division, then lost the first playoff game that they were in against Daniel Jones and the Giants. I kind of get the feeling the Vikings are going to, and they've been hanging on for dear life the last few weeks anyways, Bill, that they'll lose a game or two along the way. It does shape up where if Green Bay can steal this one, Billy, Thursday night against Detroit, you're talking about Seattle, New Orleans, Minnesota, Chicago. It doesn't exactly shape up as the toughest schedule in the league by any stretch of the imagination. They could make a run at this thing. And, Bill, if you win the division, you're probably going to be the one seed in the conference. I know Philly is looming and all that kind of stuff. I don't know their exact schedule. I don't have that in front of me. But if Green Bay can find a way to win out, Bill, at worst, they'll be the 2, obviously. And but like you said, huge game from the perspective that if they do lose it, now the next 4 weeks, all we're talking about is what wild card spot are they lining up to play in?
Yeah, I was talking about that earlier today. I mean, you don't know what the South is going to be because the South has a couple of teams that are even right now. I mean, Atlanta's leading the division at 6-6, so you'd probably want to go to Atlanta. But if you end up being a wild card, do you have a preference? Is it Atlanta? Is it, say, where would you want to go? I mean, would you want to go to one of the NFC South teams? Would you want to? I mean, where would you want to go to Seattle?
I mean, if I'm these guys, Bill, I probably want to go see Atlanta, but I don't know if Atlanta can hold off Tampa Bay now that Tampa Bay is starting to get a little bit healthier at the wide receiver position. Right. I don't think Atlanta's very. I mean, Bill, I'll be honest. Whoever that is in the 5 and 6 hole, and you'd have to assume that's going to be 2 NFC North teams. Let's just say the way it lines up now, Minnesota's the 5, Green Bay's the 6. Minnesota and Green Bay will both go on the road. Let's say it's whatever, Atlanta, Seattle, Tampa, Arizona, whatever. It doesn't matter. They're going to go on the road as 4 to 7 point favorites. I mean, that's in all likelihood. Yeah. You're going to get a Final Four if all things go according, kind of the way Vegas is going to tell us it's going to go, Bill. The Final Four is going to be Philly, Detroit, Minnesota, Green Bay, which would be a heck of a lot of fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah, no, it certainly would. Rob, always appreciate you hanging out with us for a little bit, man. Thanks for stopping by and being flexible today, and we'll talk to you later down the road, okay?
All right, you enjoy the game. It's going to be a great one.
Thanks, buddy. Talk to you soon. There you go. Rob Reichel from Forbes.com, Conley Media as well, covering the Green Bay Packers. He's got a really interesting article, if you go to Forbes, and talking to guys like Kenny Clark and such about what they needed to do last year, very similar to what the approach is going to be this year to getting Goff off of his mark and everything. So if you get a chance, go there. I don't want to give the whole article away. Otherwise, you don't need to go read it. Go to Forbes.com and just search Packers, and you'll see all of Rob's stuff pop up. We are live here in Marshfield, here at Nuts Deep 2, and we got a good crowd on hand, as you can see, for those that are watching at home and watching on internet. And we got a whole crowd over on YouTube and over on X and all the different platforms that you can find us, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all that kind of stuff. We're there as well. Good crowd on hand tonight. Let's do this. We're going to step out and take a quick break. When we come back, Mike Clemens is on his way over to Detroit. We're going to talk with Mike for the next half hour about what he sees with this team coming out of the locker room a little bit earlier today, the guys he's talked to earlier this week, the coaches, the assistant coaches, the coordinators and such. All of that coming up. We are broadcasting live in Marshfield. Nuts Deep 2 is where you can find us, and I saw that they were voted like the best burger for like 8 years in a row, and they've got one of the better nightlife spots to be if you're in the Marshfield area. So come on out and say, tonight's a craptastic night, for lack of a better term. It's cold, it's nasty, it's windy. So put on your coat, trudge out, come on by, get warm in here. They've got all kind of beverages to warm you up as well, and it's not a far ride home, let's be honest. Even if you're coming down from Wausau, who the hell cares? Come on over, say hi. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Huddle coming up right after this. Let we go.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Good to have you back. We are live. We are in Marshfield, Wisconsin. Nuts Deep 2 for the Bill Michaels Huddle tonight. The Huddle brought to you by our good friends at Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. At Pella, don't forget, they have got 0% financing. You can check it out, whether it's windows, doors, interior, exterior, beautification, economical factor, whatever it happens to be. Go to PellaWI.com. That is PellaWI.com. They have a showroom here in the Wausau area. They also have one in Green Bay. They have one in Brookfield, which is just west of Milwaukee, and then on the Beltline out in Madison. Again, go to PellaWI.com. That is PellaWI.com. And let's now go back to the phones. Our guy, Mike Clemens, who is currently heading over to the Motor City. Mike, how you doing, man?
Good. Did you know that the speeding limit in Illinois is now 95 miles an hour? Because no one was going under on the south side of Chicago. Oh, my God. People are nuts. They're nuts.
How's the weather?
Blustery. There's winds like gusting up to 30 miles an hour, and it's been on and off with the snow and stuff like that. So, yeah, no, it's planes, trains, and automobiles.
Okay, well, as long as you don't find your hands in between pillows, I guess you're on your way and you're okay. So that's good news. Mike, so coming out of the Packers locker room this week, other than the fact that we were paying attention to Romeo Doubs and Edgerrin Cooper and Valentine and Jair, I guess, what did you take away coming out of this, coming out of the locker room, getting ready for this game coming up tomorrow night?
A team that's on the roll. They like the way they're playing. They like some of the guys that are starting to contribute. You know, even like Aaron Mosby, who is a kid that I talked about during training camp. You know, there was a tight end, and then there was this one linebacker. I said, hey, here's two guys, you know, bubble guys. Well, the tight end didn't make it, but Aaron Mosby did, one for practice squad, then to making the roster. And now he's coming up with some of these sacks and stopping running backs behind the line. And I gave you guys that conversation we had with him just the other day too about, you know, the opportunities and the shots that he took in training camp. He could see the ball. When you heard about Sean Clifford, you know, being under pressure or throwing picks and all that, this Mosby kid, you know, really had an impressive camp, and he seems to have been right at home like that. So you got him. You got Brenton Cox, who's made some plays a week before. And then the two that we've talked about the most are Quay Walker and Lucas Van Ness. First-round draft picks. Quay Walker, after the Thanksgiving game, he had not talked to us for like 3 weeks. And, you know, you kind of get the sense he's hiding out. He doesn't really want to talk about it right now because he doesn't have any answers. And that's exactly what it was. And after that nice win in front of, what did you say, 34 million viewers now?
34.5 million viewers, yeah.
That beat 33 in the big game. I mean, that was a record setter last year in Detroit on Thanksgiving. So even higher. This is what, and some of the players are saying, you know, why have we got all these night games? Because you guys get ratings. The Packers get ratings. Whether it's Aaron Rodgers or now the Jordan Love era, the Packers have that kind of following across the country, and it paid off again for NBC and Amazon Prime tomorrow night and all these other teams doing that. But Quay Walker came out and had this great conversation with him where he just said, sometimes I overthink this stuff. And, you know, I'm trying to get all these rules down. We're in the first year of a new defense. He's got the green dot. Even Xavier McKinney, you know, their safety captain, he wore the green dot. He called the plays from the safety position when he was with the Giants. And he said, that's a lot. It's a lot to process, to get people to line up, be in the right spots, and not at the same time go through your checklist of rules. And do I go after the running back? Do I go after this tight end that's coming down? But Quay has responded, and he's been more assignment sure. He's been able to get some tackles for loss behind the line of scrimmage. And the same way with Lucas Van Ness, who told me, you know, at the end of the day, like one of my college coaches told me, you've got to steal a play. You know, you might have an assignment where you're supposed to line up outside the tackle, and you're worried about contain and get pressure on Tua Tagovailoa, you know, keep his clock going, all those kinds of things. And, you know, watch out for the Mike McDaniel, you know, little fake or triple fake or jet sweep or something like that. But then if you think you've got a shot, if you think you see a clear lane and there's no one back there that's going to chip you, well, then by all God, get back there and sack Tua, which he did. And you know what? I told him, by the way, that Armstead tackle that you beat, that's the first sack that guy had given up all year long from the Dolphins.
Mike, defensively speaking, without Jair, we talked a little bit about this earlier today. I know that he's trying to come back. We know it's a PCL. What do you think? Do you think, because I don't think he's playing in this game if he's got a PCL. I think you can wait the extra 10 days until you get back at it again next Sunday and give him a little bit longer rest. You need him, don't get me wrong, because they've got Amra St. Brown. They've got very solid wide receivers, good tight ends. But I don't think you risk bringing him back, even though I think the entire Packers world wants to see this guy back on the field and actually healthy and staying on the field. But I think you run the risk of making it worse if you bring him back just a little bit too soon.
Well, I just got to go by a text that I got, but I haven't gotten this confirmed. I think Jair Alexander and Romeo Doubs are both out for this game tomorrow night.
Yeah.
But Doubs is still not cleared the concussion protocol, and that it not only was maybe a trainer decision, could have been a player decision, but probably a coach's decision that they looked for Jair to get to a certain level yesterday in that last practice. And after talking about it today, it's just like, you're not there. We don't want to put you out there against Jameis Williams, who they didn't face in the last game, or some of these other receivers, St. Brown. We're not putting you out there with that. We're going to put in Carrington Valentine, as we know, that are 100% for the game, because this is an important game for us to take a shot at.
Let's do this. Mike, you got another segment in you, right?
Oh, yeah.
Let's do this. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're broadcasting live here at Nuts Deep 2 in Marshfield, Wisconsin. The great traveling Mike Clemens on the line. He is going down around Chicago currently and getting himself safely over to the Motor City. He's brought to you by the Bay Motel. Bay Motel in Green Bay. Check them out. They do have packages available for the NFL Draft upcoming at the end of April. Go to baymotelgreenbay.com. That is baymotelgreenbay.com. They're a mile from Lambeau Field. And the Bay Family Restaurant attached has home-style cooking 7 days a week. If you want to call them, 920-494-3441. And if you're here at Nuts Deep 2, I had a lot of people come up and ask and said, hey, what about the cupcakes and the cake? It's free. I didn't buy it. I'm not charging anybody. I didn't bring it. I want to make sure that Ann and the gang over here that have Nuts Deep 2 get the credit for it. So give them a nice round of applause, because they brought cupcakes tonight and cake for everybody and all kinds of. But if you didn't get any, it's here while it lasts. And if you don't get any tonight, it's your own damn fault. And by the way, if you come up, take one. I've seen people up here loading up like this is their last supper, like they're going to the electric chair later on tonight. So take one and pass it around. Let's do that. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show. Mike Clemens driving over to Detroit, around Chicago, joins us coming up next.
Let we go. This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
You got to hit it, bang it, rock it, put it in the pocket.
Good to have you back. The Bill Michaels Huddle live in Marshfield. We are at Nuts Deep 2 here in Marshfield and enjoying the night. We've been here all day, so thanks to all the hospitality and such all around the area. We certainly appreciate it. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Point Brewing. Make these holidays safe. Don't forget, have a designated driver. Point Brewing. Brewing excellence since 1857, right up the road in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. We go back to Mike Clemens cruising his way over to the Motor City and talking to Mike. So, Mike, we were talking a little bit defensively about, this team, but Jordan Love seems he's starting to find a little bit of a rhythm. I think he's starting to feel a little bit healthier, too, and I think that makes it a little bit easier on Matt LaFleur. And this was the time last year where they go to a dome, they feel a little bit faster, they feel a little bit better, and they just all of a sudden took off, which is what we're hoping for again tomorrow night.
A lot of the reporters, a lot of the reporters have been kind of, Groundhog Day, broken record story the last 3 or 4 weeks. Like, oh, well, now you're better now because you're 100%, right? You don't have the knee, you don't have the groin injury. I got to think that actually the knee is bothering him. I think what's happening, Bill, is that there's some better play calling, some better game planning. And the other thing is, to me, how they really got Josh Jacobs going. And how the rhythm of the offensive line, those 5 guys up front are blocking for him, that they're calling the running plays. The other thing that hurt them with that, some of these games, is when Josh Myers dropped out at center and they had to move Elton Jenkins over. And they've been very lucky, knock on wood, on their offensive line. I think they've had their starting 5 10 out of 11 games or so. But when they lost to the Lions on that rainy day, it was Elton Jenkins that was in at center. Remember, he had 3 bad snaps in that game. 2 that were back to back. You can't do that against the one of the top teams in the NFC in the Detroit Lions. So they've got that stuff solved. And Josh Myers is back at center, 100%. And he's got a pectoral muscle now that's bothering him. But at least he does have that wrist injury that went back to the Texans game. So that's helping. The other thing though is when you talk to Josh Jacobs, man, he sees it. He is seeing it now. And even if there's a play called for maybe some, double team blocking to the right, he's finding angles to the left. And even if it's against the Dolphins in cold weather, and the Dolphins were keen on him the other night, and he's only averaging 2 or 3 yards a carry or so, then what do? He's in a check down position off to the left-hand side, and Jordan Love goes 1, 2, 3, looks through his progressions, and sees 8 over there in the left-hand slats. And Josh Jacobs says, you know what? I was supposed to cut in, but I saw something over the left, and I could beat around the corner. He turned it into a 49-yard explosive gain, a check down pass. And that's got to tell Jordan Love, hey, man, this guy is a target. Just get the ball in his hands any way that you can. Same way with Jaden Reed as they've been doing throughout his 2 seasons. But those kinds of sparks are making a difference. And by the way, though, just to confirm now, Romeo Doubs cannot play in this game. He's out with a concussion. Jair Alexander out because of the knee situation. And now, unfortunately, you can add to this list. And we also knew that Edrin Cooper, the young linebacker, he's dealing with a hamstring injury. Corey Ballantyne, backup defensive back, special teams player, out with a knee. But Aaron Mosby got put on the injury list tonight with something that he called game day evaluation for concussion. So even though he was a full participant in practice on Sunday and Monday, something must have happened in there. And now they're questioning whether or not, he's going to be 100% for tomorrow night. That's a great special teams player. And as we said, one of these linebackers have got in rotation. Over on the Lions side, though, on their offensive line, their great offensive line, they will not have their veteran tackle, Taylor Decker. He's got a knee. And then one of their defensive linemen is not going to be able to play, too. DJ Moore is not. No, it's not DJ Moore.
Reader.
I'm doing this in my head. Yeah, he can't play because he's got a shoulder injury. He's out of the game as well. Yeah. And I told you the story today where, back on their back end, they got Kirby Joseph, who was at safety, one of the very best. I mean, he picked off Aaron Rodgers twice in one game. I think it was Rodgers' last game as a rookie. And he picked off Jordan Love in that last one. Outstanding team leader, very positive energy. If you were voting for the Pro Bowl today, the two safeties back there would be Xavier McKinney from Green Bay and Kirby Joseph. Yeah. He's a dangerous player that's out there, but they had to sign Jamal Adams, who was not even playing football, off the street, just to try and fill in their back end in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I know that they've got 4 guys they just signed that are probably going to be in the defensive line rotation as well. So, they're really, really, really banged up. Mike, you had mentioned Josh Jacobs. In this game, we've talked a lot about Tucker Kraft over the last couple of weeks. He finally got involved a little bit more against Miami after only having 3 targets between the 2 games prior to. So the question becomes, do you start to look more for Tucker Kraft to move the chains? Do you start to look more for Christian Watson, who seems to have kind of figured a few things out? Dontavian Wicks, he has the first drop the other day, and then after that he went 4 for 4 in catches and never let a ball hit the ground after that. I mean, they even without Romeo Doubs, they have weapons and capability. It's just, who do you start to look to go, this guy is going to emerge. This is the guy that we can really start to depend on to really become that asset to the offense.
One thing I see LaFleur and Adam Stenavich doing with Dontavian Wicks is they have to put him in certain zones like that, over the middle, nothing too tricky kind of thing. Just get the ball in his hands because they like his yards after the catch. They also compliment him in terms of his downfield blocking for Josh Jacobs. He's one of the first ones down there leading the way. That's why he's still on the field. But I think they're smarter on which kinds of routes are going to work for him. And tomorrow night, they're indoors. So you don't have to worry about the 50-mile-an-hour winds and 26 degrees and that kind of thing. All these guys can be a little bit faster and challenge some of the backups they've got on the defensive back for the Lions. And so that ought to help. But, they'll miss Dobbs because Dobbs is kind of a third down guy for you, sure-handed and all that. And, Watson, even though he had a really bad drop a couple of weeks ago, his confidence continues to build that he can be, that all-round guy that can beat people, that can use that height and can make one-handed catches like he did, in the cold the other night and be a guy that Love can depend on for the big shot.
Mike, we talked a little bit about Jordan Love and about the offense starting to click. The defense is playing more physical. The one thing we have not discussed, it really kind of pointed out a whole bunch of negatives. Do we feel like now the special teams have kind of figured them out? They're playing smarter football. They're playing better football. The kicking game with McManus seems to be pretty much sealed and locked up now. You don't have to kind of hold your breath every time he goes out there. Rich Bisaccia has got to, knock on wood, it's got to be smiling at least a little bit, right?
Well, Bisaccia said, I saw someone say that special teams for Green Bay now are almost mundane. Let me tell you, gentlemen, there's nothing mundane about special teams in the National Football League. But, he likes his long snapper, Matt Orzech, and in terms of the operation, Daniel Whelan has become a dependable holder. Whelan is an outstanding punter who continues to improve to make directional kicks. Corey Bojorquez is with the Browns now. And again, he's kicking 60-yard punts, but, he's out kicking coverage. He's not put in the field. And LaFleur and Whelan, Bisaccia says that Daniel Whelan, the Packers punter now, he's now to the point where he knows when he gets out there where he wants to put it. He knows what those guys want. He's making those kinds of decisions. And that's what Bisaccia is really excited about when it comes to the punt game and field position and playing that. And then in terms of Brandon McManus and the field goals, no one's sweating it. No one's, LaFleur was in a production meeting with Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, and they said, oh, yeah, well, what about Anders Carlson? He goes, I pray before the kicks. It was a joke. It was just a joke. and now, he had to go to Carlson and explain that I was just kidding. I didn't want to mess with your head, but that got out there. No one's saying prayers. They figure McManus is going to figure out a way to get his business done as well. So that and courage too. They're doing good. And that Robert Rochelle the other night, your 53rd man who's been on and off the practice squad. What does he do? He comes up with a fumble recovery on a muff punt, and the Packers go in and get their first touchdown in the cold against the Dolphins the other night. That's looking really good.
Mike, we got about a minute and a half here, but I wanted to ask you, so coming out of all of this week, Lions kind of reeling defensively speaking. This is a game that should set up well for the Green Bay Packers. How you feeling about tomorrow night?
I think the players think they can pull this off. They want to get this game. They know everything it means in Green Bay. And I think they think that they're playing well. I think they're looking forward to the big time, indoors, and they know how hard that field can be. But I think they can pull this off. And I think they feel that this is going to be kind of a shootout, that if they can score on offense, they can keep up with Jared Goff and his group on the Lions offense and those two tough backs. Montgomery is a really strong runner, and Gibbs is so speedy. But I think that they think that the Bears showed them some things like, hey, we could control these guys. We're better than the damn Bears team, and we think we got a shot to beat them. And then you're going to play a Saints team in a couple of weeks where Taysom Hill is turned into the quarterback. He's now on IR. He got injured. They got to bring back Derek Carr. And then you got to play the Vikings again up in Minnesota, and then the Bears at the end of that. But these guys see a path where, who knows, maybe we could run the table and be there at the end of the regular season to get, a higher spot when you get to the playoffs.
Mike, great stuff as always. Safe travels over to the Motor City. We will talk again tomorrow night after the contest, okay?
Happy birthday, Bill Michaels.
Appreciate
Happy
it, bud.
Birthday.
There you go. The great Mike Clemens joining us for a couple of minutes. We got 1 hour down, another hour yet to go. Don't forget Dave Schrader, WBAY TV in Green Bay. He joins us coming up next. Dan Miller, the voice of the Lions, about 20, 25 minutes away. Don't go anywhere. We got another hour of the Huddle here at Nuts Deep 2. We are in Marshfield, Wisconsin. We'll be back right after this.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the Packers going to be without Jair Alexander and Romeo Doubs tomorrow night when they face the Lions. Both were ruled out on the final injury report today. Alexander has a knee injury. Doubs battling a concussion. Edrin Cooper and Corey Ballantyne also ruled out for the Packers. Detroit could be missing key players too, including tackle Taylor Decker. Kick tomorrow night, slated for 7:15. Turn to the Badgers. They signed their 2025 recruiting class today. It features 24 players led by 4-star quarterback Carter Smith. Team also lost several more current players to the transfer portal today. That included wide receiver Trech Kekahuna. He was the team's third leading receiver. Coach Lou Fickell also gave an update on what he's looking for when it comes to finding a new offensive coordinator to replace the fired Phil Longo.
The stereotype of saying before we were an air raid, it's a label. I would tell you that we want to be more of a pro style. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything more than we want to be multiple. We want to be able to play in 11 personnel. We want to be able to play in 12 personnel. If we have 13 personnel, if that's possible, 21. We want to be in the gun. We want to be able to do the things that we've done out of the gun in the passing game. But we also want to be able to see ourselves under center for 6, 8, 10 snaps a game.
Fickell and the Badgers lost their final 5 games, won't play in a bowl game for the first time since 2001.
Actor portrayal.
When I first looked into life insurance, I worried about the hassle. Then I found Better Life. Their simplified issue whole life coverage plans mean no medical exam. I found a plan that fit my budget. Now my final expenses are covered. Plus, I get Better Life member benefits at no extra cost. That's definitely better.
Better Life Insurance, where better means belonging. Call 888-488-4136. Insurance issued by Better Life Insurance Company. Terms and conditions apply. Member benefits are subject to change. Contact a licensed agent for details.
Well, the Bucs are back in action tonight as the Hawks come to Milwaukee. Bucs have won 7 straight, 9 of their last 10. Meanwhile, Wisconsin refocusing as they get ready to head to Marquette on Saturday. Badgers lost last night for the first time this year. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
Are you ready for some football? He talks green and gold. This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels.
Welcome back. Hour number 2 of the Huddle, and we are broadcasting live. We are at Nuts Deep 2. We are here in Marshfield, Wisconsin. We thank everybody for coming out tonight. Kind of a cold, brisk night, but that's okay. We're all here. We're all enjoying ourselves. All right, thanks to our friends at WOSQ in Marshfield, the ESPN affiliate that we have here. They brought hats today, and between the hats and the cupcakes, everybody kind of milled around just staring at it for a while. They weren't really sure if they should take it, if they were going to get charged for it. They didn't know. And then we said it was free. And you'd have thought there was like a blue light special. I'm old enough to remember blue light specials, like at a Kmart, and people began descending upon like vultures and pulling meat off of carcasses out in the middle of the road. It was crazy. So we got a few cupcakes left. We're going to cut this cake at some point, I would assume. Haven, are you going to find somebody to cut the cake a little bit later? She's walking away. That's okay. But nevertheless, we've got food. We got beverages. Thanks to Jeff and Bill a little bit earlier, they bought a birthday shot for me, so we did a little birthday shot. They were also celebrating nearby birthdays, so congratulations to them as well. But thanks for joining us here tonight at Nuts Deep 2 here in Marshfield, Wisconsin. Dave Schrader, our guy from WBAY TV up in Green Bay, joining us on the hotline. Dave, how you doing, pal? Dave? Oh, we lost Dave. We'll get Dave back. We lost him for a second. He dropped. He gone. We'll get Dave back. I was going to say I didn't hear anything. I didn't even hear a breathing in the background. So we'll get Dave on here momentarily. But again, we are here. We are in Marshfield, Wisconsin at Nuts Deep 2. And again, our fine affiliate WOSQ in Marshfield. It brings us up here once a year, and we always enjoy getting back. We love all of the cities that we're in and all of our affiliates. So thanks so much. And again, thanks to Dewey and Ann, the owners here, and Andy as well. Katie, who was behind the bar earlier tonight. I don't know if Katie's still here or not, but thanks to Katie for kind of helping us out and taking care of us when we first got here as well. I did get during our conversation, I did get a couple of people that texted regarding some of the comments Mike Clemens was making, and they wanted to kind of see if, ask a couple of questions, so to speak. So I'll take those real quick while we get Dave Schrader back on the line from WBAY TV in Green Bay. And one of those was, and this is from Art, who said, even if the Packers win this game tomorrow night, the likelihood of them winning the division seems to be less. What are your thoughts? Why put so much stock into this game? I think it's a very valid question, because I think even if they win tomorrow night, it's under 40% for them and their ability to win the division, just for the fact that the tiebreakers do not favor the Packers in a lot of different instances. Okay. So why is it important? I think for a couple of reasons. One, it's a divisional game. The Lions have been pretty good. They're 5-1 against you in the last 6 games under Dan Campbell. I mean, for that reason alone, you're playing for pride. And you want to get, kind of back on track, so to speak. Last year, you went in there, you dominated. They have certainly, I would assume, at least circled this game in your return to Ford Field. It's a big game for the Lions. They're on a win streak night right now. You'd like to be the team that would end that, obviously. But I think more so than anything, you're starting to win. You're starting to click. You're starting to trend in the right direction. And what you don't want to do is go backwards. You don't want to turn the ball over. You don't want to give up a ton of yards, 350-plus yards. You don't want to give up numerous bad move touchdowns. By bad move, I'm talking about touchdowns are either poor tackling or in the sense of not knowing your assignment, letting guys get free, making mistakes. You're starting to play better. You're starting to play more physical. You're starting to play and trend in the right direction. You don't want to take a step back. And as we know, when you head into the postseason, which you've only got, so many games remaining here, 4 or 5 games remaining here, when you look at this, you want to be hitting on all cylinders. You got to be good, which we know. You got to be healthy. You got to be lucky, and you got to get hot. And you want to be hot at the right time. We got our guy Dave Schrader back in the line from WBAY TV in Green Bay. Dave, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing well, battling through cell troubles, but here we are.
That's great. Well, at least you're here, man. We appreciate it. Dave, give me your a whole week of covering this team, a game going in. We know it's not a big game in the sense of whether or not, the Packers are going to clinch a division or anything like that. I mean, obviously they're striving to get there. But how big of a game is this in your eyes from what the guys you've talked to in that locker room this week?
To me, this kind of has the feel of when the Patriots came to town, 10 years ago? I mean, it's not going to determine anything, but it's a measuring stick against the very best. And if you lose it, it would determine the division in this case.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's not like those Week 17 NFC winner takes the North games in both 14, 15, and actually 16 as well. It's not quite that, but it is a very, very important game and they need to get it.
So with last year, they got after Jared Goff. They pressured him. They did a lot. Now you've got a defense in Detroit that is just completely decimated and banged up. I mean, they're missing, 15, 16 guys. So, are you looking for a big game offensively and you just kind of play a game of keep away and, if it's a track meet, it's a track meet? Or do you think that the Packers defensively are starting to play better? And as Matt LaFleur put it on Thursday night last week, they're playing with more physicality in the style of defense that he wants to see them play.
They are certainly playing with more physicality. And if you look at the season average for Detroit, I believe 31.9 points per game, 2.5 points better than anyone else in the National Football League. That's impressive stuff. But if you look at the first meeting, 24-14 doesn't even tell the whole tale because there was a pick six in there that the defense had zero responsibility for. So the defense last time basically gave up 17 points against this team. I think the defense is playing well enough to win this game for sure. And the Lions defense may have the injuries, but I have a lot of faith in the Packers defense, no matter who the opponent is, to hold them below their average at least.
What are give me your gut thoughts when you go into this game about kind of how I don't necessarily give me the outcome, but how good are you feeling about the Packers against this team? Like you said, they held them to 17 or less points in the last contest, even though they ended up losing the game. The fact that it's a familiar foe, it's pride on the line. Dan Campbell basically is 5-1 against them, kind of kicking their butts. Give me your thoughts on the kind of the feeling for this game coming from yourself.
I think this is a complete toss-up game. I know that the Lions are juggernauts. They won in overtime week 1, lost narrowly in week 2, and have not lost since. But I think the Packers have been a sleeping giant all year, just waiting to hit its stride. And I think the health of Jordan Love and I think the defense settling in under Jeff Hafley makes this a complete toss-up. I don't know if they'll win Thursday night, but I really think this is going to be a really, really entertaining game and honestly a playoff preview.
How much of Jordan Love getting healthy do you think opens the playbook back up for Matt LaFleur?
I think immensely. If your quarterback can evade pressure and not play like where he's kind of every game when he was injured, he was chucking a couple up for grabs, it felt like. Mm-hmm. And while he had a pick against the Bears since the bye, he hasn't really done that as much. Yes, there was a pass he threw to Watson against San Fran that really the defender had a better shot at. Watson bailed him out by playing defense from the receiver position. But we've seen far less of that, and I think a lot of that is comfort and mobility and knowing that he can get away from some pressure and extend plays on his terms without getting the ball out of his hands because his legs don't allow him to do what he wants to do.
I like when you talk about the physicality on the defensive side of the football, I to the eyeball test anyway, I like what I see. Now, Pro Football Focus may disagree in some areas with some of these guys. Do you like what you're seeing more out of Quay Walker, more out of Lucas Van Ness, more? I mean, I look at Devontae Wyatt's numbers and his ratings, and they're really low. And I always see a blow up of some type coming from Devontae Wyatt, even though Kenny Clark has been kind of staunch, even though he's been kind of hampered by that toe this year. You get glimpses more and more of what this defense maybe could be. Do you think they're finally getting what Jeff Hafley has been selling this entire time?
I think they're trending in the right direction, but I still would love to see more from the pass rush week in, week out. Yes, they had 5 the other day. They had a ton against Tennessee. I think that we need to see it. Rashawn Gary had a hat trick, I believe, on Thanksgiving there last year. He's had one here, one there. He hasn't had a breakout game himself. And I think the test Thursday is as big as it gets. I mean, that line, even with Decker out, it's one of the best lines in the National Football League. You're going to have to prove your physicality against a team that has been known for physicality. They and the Niners, the last 2 years at least, I think have been the most physical brand of football in the National Football League. And the Packers are starting to try to match that. We see if they are built for prime time and ready for it tomorrow night.
I know Josh Myers has the wrist issue, but one of the things we don't talk about, and maybe it's a real sign of how good they've been, the offensive line. They did a lot of mixing and matching early on, and then obviously some injuries kind of changed that. But the fact that we don't talk about the offensive line hardly at all, they're not giving up sacks, they're not giving up a ton of pressures. Their run blocking has been really good. Josh Jacobs has gotten comfortable behind that offensive line. And if you look at it, they're the top-rated pass-blocking offensive line in all of football. It's not household names that we're talking about here. We're not talking about Trent Williams. We're not having David Bakhtiari anymore. But you're getting it done with guys that you weren't really sure about when they brought him in, if there's anything Nick Goody has done extremely well, it's been rebuilding that offensive line, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. For sure in pass blocking and not giving up sacks, even though Love has been hampered with his mobility at times this year. I think it's very impressive. Matt LaFleur, though, for as much as you want to credit his O-line, the other day he was asked about it, and he kind of said, no, they need to do some work in the run game too. As much as Josh Jacobs is running crazy, he's having to make a lot of jump cuts at the line of scrimmage to make guys miss. LaFleur wants more from the run blocking of that unit. I believe the only game all year in which they didn't have the same starting five was that first matchup against the Lions. Remember, they had 2 or 3 snaps hit the ground, and Love had to corral them and had botched plays. That was because likely the rain, and also likely Elton Jenkins sliding over to play center.
Yeah.
I think having your preferred O-line really does make a difference.
Yeah, big time. And they've been so good pretty much all season long. I agree with you on the run. I mean, they're not stellar when it comes to the run. We know that. They're, I think, middle of the pack, maybe top 10. But they've been so much better, and very quietly they've just kind of accumulated points, we'll say, and they've looked good doing it. I want to go over to the defensive side of the football again, the secondary, the mixing and matching that has gone on, and guys that, you know, there's going to be no Jair, no Ballantyne probably in this one. You've been doing it with guys like Keyshawn Nixon. Obviously, Xavier McKinney's made a huge leap in that secondary and helped them out tremendously. But while they give up plays and they still can frustrate fans, they're not giving up big plays. They're not giving up a ton of yards. And unlike the Joe Barry defense where they bent until they finally broke, this team's starting to figure out ways to get off the field on third down as well, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think the thing that will win games like this is making plays on the ball. Obviously, without Jair, you got the safeties to kind of mask some of that. But Keyshawn Nixon this year has played some really tight coverage but hasn't gotten his head around. Remember the touchdown to Amon-Ra St. Brown to start the first meeting where Keyshawn's there. It's a back shoulder, doesn't get his head around, I believe. And then the one against Justin Jefferson at home as well.
Mm-hmm.
Keyshawn Nixon has played some really tight coverage at times. He only has 1 interception in his career, I believe. I think that was the one against Patrick Mahomes last year. If he's able to start locating the ball and making the plays as a boundary corner, I think that could really make a difference for this team, as they really don't know when and when they will not have Jair Alexander. For as good as he is, his availability has been suspect at times the last several seasons.
Do you like the way Hafley has used Eric Stokes? Because he hasn't used him full time, but he's brought him into certain situations. He's brought him in nickel and dime packages at times. But he got a lot of criticism early on for missed tackles, not being in the right place at the right time. But it seems like he's maybe playing a tick better. Do you like the way they're starting to use Stokes?
Stokes, to me, he had that big injury in year 2, had a really decent, really decent rookie campaign.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him have that breakout game, those breakout moments like, hey, this is the guy that was a first-round draft pick that looks really good. I just haven't seen it yet. I don't know if we will. I don't know if – when everyone's healthy, I'd love to see how they use everyone. And, when it gets to playoff time, what would they do if they had everyone healthy? I don't know if that's going to happen or not, though.
Yeah.
But Stokes has yet to really prove it.
I like the way things are starting to progress out of the linebacking core. You look at Evan Williams in the secondary playing free safety. You look at Eric Wilson playing the linebacker side. Some of the young guys, some of the guys they took chances on, they're paying off, and they're kind of making a name for themselves. You can't wait for Edrin Cooper to come back, because when he's in there, he just kind of jumps off the page at you. But if you get Quay Walker playing more physical and you get Edrin Cooper coming back and still jumping off the page, can we look at maybe the real progression of a middle linebacking core, something we've been really kind of longing for a long time, of getting real good, maybe possibly getting hot at the right time as you get to the postseason?
Yeah, don't forget Isaiah McDuffie playing through that ankle last week. It's one thing to watch it live the first time, but you go back and you watch it again, it's like, man, that dude was making play after play after play after play. And while his athletic ceiling may not be as high as an Edrin Cooper, he's a sound football player too.
Yeah.
I also think this whole defense, I think they're all right. But I also think that there's potential that they have not yet realized. Like, how would we view Quay Walker's career and season if he just caught the interceptions that hit both of his hands? He puts himself in the position to make so many plays. And we know he's capable of it. He had a pick 6 against the Bears last year. If he starts to squeeze those balls and make those plays, I mean, this defense can be so much better.
Yeah, no doubt. Dave, I always appreciate it. Thanks for kind of doing this by turning on a dime for us. We appreciate it, and we'll talk again real soon. Okay, pal?
Sounds good.
Thanks,
for
buddy.
having me.
There you go. Dave Schrader from WBAY, sports director up there in Green Bay, joining us for a couple of minutes on the Huddle. We are live. We're out here in Marshfield, Wisconsin, in Nuts Deep 2, enjoying ourselves. Still a few cupcakes remaining, so if you're out cruising around out there and you want to swing by and say hi, you can. They're giving away the free cupcakes tonight. We still got a cake to cut as well. Hang in there. We got a lot more. Dan Miller, the voice of the Detroit Lions. You're going to hear that conversation. That is coming up next on the Bill Michaels Huddle. We'll be right back.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Good to have you back. Bill Michaels Huddle tonight. We are in Marshfield, Wisconsin. We're at Nuts Deep 2, and thanks to them and the staff and management here for hosting us. WOSQ Radio 92.3 FM here, the ESPN affiliate, which is one of our affiliates as well. We thank them for bringing us up here. In case you missed it, the call at the end of the game on Thanksgiving Day was epic. Dan Miller, the voice of the Lions, he as time winds down, 36 seconds, Caleb Williams gets sacked, the Bears quarterback, and we just watched time fritter away to the point where they end up throwing one incomplete pass. Nobody calls a timeout, and it was listening to Dan Miller just saying, why did they just do that? What is going on? You can't, but you'll take it. It's a win. The Lions ended up walking away with a victory. So Dan Miller now joining us on the hotline. Dan, that thing was absolutely fantastic. What's going through your head as you're watching time wind down and the Bears take a loss?
It was surreal for sure. I mean, thanks for the kind words, but it was as you're watching it unfold, you're in the middle of it and you're trying to process it. And you're just looking at, and you're in the mode of, okay, don't let him get a touchdown. Don't let him get 10 yards. Don't let him get close, for a field goal here, which they were probably on the outer reaches of range. And then they're just doing nothing. And he's standing back there directing traffic, trying to get guys set up. And, clearly the head coach froze. And I've been paid for it with his job, which he probably was going to anyway. And I still think that, look, I think Caleb Williams got a lot of talent. That kid can play, and he can sling it. But I think, next year or maybe next week, he'd probably know enough to call a timeout. I think if that's a veteran quarterback in there, if that's Jared Goff, Dak Prescott, name your guy that's been around with some skins on the wall, I think they would say, you know what, we're letting all this time run off. There's 22 seconds to go. Let's timeout. But just nobody did anything. I got guys with me in the booth, TJ Lang, whom you guys all know well, and Lomas, and they're both like, what the heck is going on? So it was just surreal to try to figure out, what the heck they were doing, but you'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely. You move on. In that game, though, it seemed like every other play you were losing a defender. How banged up is this defensive front right now?
Real banged up. And, it's been going on all year. I mean, obviously Aiden Hutchinson was the headline when they lost him, and then Marcus Davenport, and then Derek Barnes, who plays the edge for him, went down. They all went down the first month of the season. And then, more recently in this game, it was DJ Reader, Levi Onzarike, and Josh Pascal, and none of them have practiced this week, which does not bode well for them playing tomorrow night. I'd be shocked if they did probably at this point. So, they've signed 4 guys in the last week that are going to be in uniform and play in this game. So, and that's really kind of been what they've been doing. They've done that with Zeke Turner and done that with a couple other guys that have just come in off the streets or off somebody else's practice squad and jumped right into a role with this team. So I think that'll certainly happen in this game as well. I honestly think there'll be 4 guys, and Coach Campbell pretty much alluded to this, that they have been here less than a week that will be in uniform taking defensive snaps in this game.
The injuries aside, this team has played extremely well all season long. I want to go to the offensive side of the football for the fact that I was going through the numbers earlier. Jared Goff does not get enough national attention and enough real credit for, I hate to say, because game manager is such an ugly word for a quarterback, but he's really good. I mean, he can make a big play when he needs to, and he can game manage when he needs to. He can rely on the run game when he needs to. But you just look at his numbers throughout his career, he is probably one of the more underappreciated quarterbacks in the NFL. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I think, a lot of that's the way that it ended in Los Angeles, where he was kind of cast aside and said, you're not our guy anymore. And I think at that point, most people thought he was just kind of adrift and his career was going to fade away. But, before that, he had taken a team to a Super Bowl and won a lot of games and won playoff games for the Rams. And then he came to Detroit, and it took a little while to get some traction, mostly because he just didn't have a whole lot around him. And I think probably he was trying to find his confidence again after everything he'd been through. But look, he's setting all kinds of records this year for, games 80% completion or better, games 140 plus quarterback rating or better. And he's been really good. He's been up there with any quarterback you want to compare him to in this league, and he's been productive, and he's surrounded by talent, and he utilizes that talent. He has tremendous patience to just take whatever the defense gives them. If you want them to check down to Laporta or Gibbs or Demo, they're happy to do that. So I think it's a really good situation for him. He's a very, very talented quarterback with an outstanding offensive coordinator, a great offensive line, and a lot of weapons to work with. And it's just a good mix. But it takes a guy to execute within that, and he does that.
The key to winning this game for the Lions, I would assume, is ball control. And not to have to put that defense on the field, not to have the Packers have opportunities to score fast. It's just hang on to the ball, grind it out, score. And the Packers kind of in the same way, because that offense of the Lions is still so high-powered. I think it's 2 very similar faceted teams with 2 very similar strategies coming into this game tomorrow night. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the Lions and obviously I've seen them a lot more than the Packers this year, but the Lions have won in a lot of different ways. They've won in games where, they've pretty much scored on every possession they've had and haven't punted, or scored on 5 straight possessions. Some of those drives were quick. They're one of the top quick strike drives in the teams in the league. Some of those drives were longer, but I don't know that there has to be a recipe that you assign to this team. They can win in different ways, but here's the thing: they have to be productive. They can't go 4 drives in this game without scoring, or do what they did last week that left the Bears in the game, get into the red zone 3 times and settle for field goals. So I really think this game for the Lions, however they do it, whether it's ball control or striking quickly, is about continuing to score and finding the end zone and putting the pressure back on the Packers to keep up with them. And that's the one thing that the Lions have done well this year. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to do it. It's a heck of a defense from Green Bay, and I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying that this is going to be easy for the Lions, because it's not. But that's been their recipe when they've played really well this year, is just streaks of taking the football and scoring and scoring and scoring and putting the other team back on their heels and putting the other team in a position where they have to take some chances and try to keep up. So I would say for the Lions, look, defensively, they're going to have some issues going into this game, and ask some guys to really step up and try to generate a pass rush without the key guys that have been their pass rushers for most of the year. But look, maybe it's time to turn to this offense, which is one of the best ones in the league, and say, hey, you know what? Need you to take it for this week. And that's what's happened with this team. It's been one, if it's not all 3 phases, they've figured out 1 or 2 of them to get them going and get them through a game. But I mean, it's a heck of a challenge and a heck of a game. And this is where you're supposed to be in December and fighting for a division title and playing against your rival on national TV. It's an awesome setting for 2, really good football teams.
When you look at the Packers on film, it's been kind of a tale of 2 different teams. You've had a team, obviously, with a quarterback that was banged up, and they couldn't utilize him the way they normally did last year in that stretch run. And now he's starting to feel it again. Defensively, they're playing more physical as opposed to what happened in the beginning of the season. Give me your thoughts as to where the Packers are right now when you look at this team.
Look, I think Love is a talented guy, but for me, and this is not disrespect, it's Josh Jacobs. I mean, he is the guy that you have to find a way to slow him down, because if he is running over you, it just makes Love's job easier. And that's no different than I would tell you with Jared Goff. You got to find a way to stop Montgomery and Gibbs, because once you free those quarterbacks up for play action and give them, the ability to have both a running game and a passing game, they become even more dangerous. So I think, and believe me, that's what we've heard all week out of the Lions facility, is they have to find some way to slow down Jacobs. And the Lions have been really good against the run for 2 years now, and that's continued. And in the last 4 games, the most they've given up to a running back is 46 yards, and that was Joe Mixon on 25 carries. But this is a different kind of challenge, and it's a different kind of challenge because of the back that you're facing, and it's a different kind of challenge because of the injuries that you're dealing with. So I look at this offensively as that's where you have to start. And then once you get past that, look, it feels like the Packers just have so many different weapons at wide receiver that are interchangeable. Reed is really good and obviously well known around here. And then, Tucker Kraft has been terrific and stepped up at tight end and become a different kind of weapon there. So I just look at the Packers as having this group of guys on the outside that can make plays. But to me, your life's going to be pretty miserable if you don't find a way to slow down that running game.
Do you, last question, do you get the sense that this is, I mean, everybody gets geeked up for Thanksgiving. We all know that in big games. But how big of a game is this for that fan base coming up tomorrow night?
Huge. It's huge. I mean, look, the Lions have won 10 games in a row and gotten virtually no wiggle room in the NFC North. You got the Vikings right behind them, and the Packers aren't going anywhere. So, look, they did good work in getting a win at Minnesota and getting a win at Green Bay. If you can win at home against Green Bay tomorrow night, that's you're probably knocking the Packers out at that point from the division title, and then you're looking at the Vikings. So you've got the NFC North implications. You've got NFC overall. we look at this thing and say, hey, if you can get that number 1 seed, then you don't have to go to Philadelphia. Philadelphia has to come to you. So there's nothing but respect for the Vikings and Packers. This division race is far from over. The Lions' remaining schedule is extremely difficult. They're beat up. So it's a huge game for them to kind of just figure out a way to get it done. And throughout this 10-game winning streak, that's kind of what they've done. It hasn't always been perfect. At times it has certainly looked overpowering, but at times it's kind of been, where they've had to come from behind and just figure it out. And they do that. And that's a sign of a good team. And that's what I think they're going to need to do in this game. They don't bow down to injuries. They don't lower their standards. They don't lower their expectations. They won't in this game either. They know they're going to get Green Bay's best shot. They just have to be ready to handle.
Dan, great stuff as always. Look forward to talking to you again real soon. And we will, great calls. I appreciate it. I'll play it back every damn time you give me a good one. So think of that when you do it. So thanks so much as always, pal. Okay.
I appreciate it, Bill. Thank you.
There you go. Dan Miller, the voice of the Detroit Lions, joining us for a couple of minutes. And great call in the game the other day on Thanksgiving against the Bears. And hopefully he doesn't have any great calls coming up tomorrow night as the Packers head over to the Motor City to take on the Detroit Lions, the 10-1 Detroit Lions. Dan Miller will be on the call with his guys in the radio side of things. But nevertheless, thanks to Dan for joining us for a couple of minutes. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Marquardt RV. Marquardt, all over the state of Wisconsin. They have 7 locations, and they do some really great work. Looking forward to working with them and coming up in 2025 as well. If you have somebody on your gift list that you are thinking about when it comes to outdoor recreation, whether it's camping or RVing and whatever, think of our friends at Marquardt RV. They've not only got great, vehicles that are in stock, but they also have the accessories to go along with it. Go to Marquardt, MARKQUART, MarquardtRV.com. That's MarquardtRV.com. 7 locations in Wisconsin, a couple of them over in Minnesota as well. And whether you're looking for a big motor coach or a motorhome like a Tiffin or something you tow behind like a Jayco, they've got something for everybody. And again, that is Marquardt RV. That is Marquardt, MARKQUART, MarquardtRV.com. When we come back, we start to take a look around the rest of the National Football League, and we start to make our picks. We'll tell you that coming up next in the Bill Michaels Huddle.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Good to have you back to Bill Michaels Huddle. We are live. We are in Marshfield, Wisconsin. This portion of the program brought to you by our friends at Cousin Subs, where they believe in better. You can use the app right now. Skip the line, order online, and you get rewards points as well for whatever it is you get. My favorite, pepperoni melt, extra mayo, extra cheese. Your face first into that thing, good to go. But, hey, maybe you just want to call up for the cookies. Who knows? Plus, you can still win some MVP seats to the best seats in the house via Packers games, and they cater. So if you want to do some catering and make it simple, check it out now at Cousin Subs. Go to cousinsubs.com to see all the information and to join the club, the Cousin Subs Club. Thanks to Cousin Subs for being a part of the program. We always appreciate it. It is now time. Let's get to it as we get into a lot of the picks going around the rest of the NFL. Now we're going to start with the games on Sunday because we're not going to get to the Thursday game between the Packers and the Lions until last. So we'll start off with the first game of the day. That is going to be the Jets with Aaron Rodgers announcing he's got his new documentary getting ready to come out, all about him and all about his recovery when it comes to his torn Achilles. And it's a little bizarre, but nevertheless, it's making the rounds this week on the Pat McAfee show, and now people are talking about it. They are in Miami to take on the 5-7 Dolphins. Tua right now, he has got a 74.5 completion percentage. He's 15 touchdowns, 4 picks, but a quarterback rating of 108. If I would have told you this quarterback has a 62.5%, 62.5 completion percentage, only has thrown for 2,600 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 8 picks this season, and a quarterback rating of 87.5, you would have probably given me the likes of Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones. You go through some of the lists of quarterbacks that really aren't quality quarterbacks in the National Football League, but those are the numbers for Aaron Rodgers. He is still, over the last, almost 30 games now, has not thrown for 300 yards, passed for 185 yards and a couple of touchdowns last week, and he's got 2+ TD passes in 4 of his last 5 games, but he's not looked good. He's missed quite a few guys. Breece Hall trying to go for his 8th in a row with at least 60 yards from scrimmage, but the Jets are a train wreck. By the way, their interim head coach, Jeff Ulbrich, is 1-6. 1-6 since taking over for Robert Saleh. And some of the guys inside the locker room have even said, see, it wasn't the coaching. I don't know what specifically they're alluding to, but it wasn't the coaching. I'm going to take the Dolphins all day long in this one down in Miami. Last week, they lost to the Packers in a hard-fought game, but they looked cold. Meanwhile, the Jets, they went and lost to Seattle. Seattle, by the way, at the Meadowlands, they lost 26-21. It was a competitive game, but wasn't really. The Jets are going to take the loss in this one. You got a good one coming up on Sunday afternoon as well. Noon kick at US Bank Stadium. The Minnesota Vikings are hosting Kirk Cousins. He's coming to town, and the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons are 6-6. Right now they're on top of the NFC South at 6-6. And they're breathing down their neck is Tampa Bay. They need this game. They have to have this game. Kirk Cousins, last time we saw him, he threw not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 picks last week against the Chargers, and the Chargers ended up knocking them off 17-13. I think that Atlanta has enough to get a win. I just don't have enough belief in Kirk Cousins to go in there and get a win. He's not playing good football right now. However, going on the road to US Bank Stadium, the place that he had obviously so much success as a Minnesota Viking, he'll be greeted fondly, but I also think that he understands defensively what it is they do. I just don't think they have enough to get over the top. Bijan Robinson so far has been really, really good. He's got 1,277 yards total from scrimmage and 8 touchdowns on the season. He's been all of that. But Kirk Cousins has got to be better. His quarterback rating is 90.8. Therefore, I'm going to take Sam Darnold and the Vikings in this one. Sam Darnold gets the win. The Vikings get the win, and the race gets tighter in the NFC South. The Vikings go to 11-2 on the season. I'm praying for an upset, but the Vikings go to 11-2. This game's bad all the way around. I don't care who you look at. You've got the Saints on the road in New York taking on the Giants. Now, the Giants lost last week 27-20 to the Dallas Cowboys. Meanwhile, you got the Saints, who I thought for sure the Saints would get a win at home against the Raiders, and they ended up getting knocked off 21-14. David Carr, he's having a decent season. I mean, he's 14 touchdowns, 4 picks, a quarterback rating of 103.3. He's had a touchdown pass and no interceptions for an 85.9 quarterback rating last week. He ranks 6th among qualified passers with a 103.3 quarterback rating right now. He's having a good season. They just can't seem to put it all together. Alvin Kamara, 1,344 total yards from scrimmage. He's got 7 touchdowns on the season. They just can't figure things out. Nevertheless, and they're going to cold weather. Nevertheless, you got Tommy DeVito under center. I'm taking Derek Carr all day long. The Saints get themselves a somewhat surprising win in the weather at the Meadowlands. I'm going to take the Saints in that contest. Carolina stinks. They're 3-9. Philadelphia at home, they're great, 10-2. My opinion right now, they probably pound for pound are the best team in the NFC, might be in the NFL for that matter. Saquon Barkley's running wild. Saquon Barkley, by the way, fantastic season so far. He's 1 yard shy of 1,500 yards on the season. He's got 11 touchdowns running. He's got 2 of them through the air, 1,766 yards. He is their offense along with A.J. Brown and company, Devonta Smith as well. Eagles are going to roll. Eagles are going to roll in this one. Pittsburgh and Cleveland. They're going to be playing this time in Pittsburgh. Russell Wilson surprising the hell out of everybody. They got a win last week, 44-38 at Cincinnati. 44-38. And Russell Wilson, season-high completions of 29, completion percentage of 76.3, and threw last week for 414 yards against that sucktastic defense of the Cincinnati Bengals. Jameis Winston, look, he gave us a lot to cheer for the other night. I loved watching him. You know, it was fun to watch him try to get a win the last time at Denver. The problem is Jameis Winston does Jameis Winston things, and he throws picks, and he threw a couple of them the other night. He's got 11 touchdowns, but 7 picks in a handful of starts this season. You can't trust him. I'm going to go with Russell Wilson and the Steelers to put. And also, by the way, the last time these two teams met, the Browns won in the snow in Cleveland a couple of weeks ago. Steelers get the revenge in this one, and they knocked them off. Meanwhile, the Raiders on the road in Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, this sets up beautifully for them. You've got the Atlanta Falcons going into Minnesota to take on the Vikings. Meanwhile, Las Vegas is going to Tampa Bay. Las Vegas stinks. They're terrible. Me and about 7, 8, 9 people out of this bar could beat the hell out of the Raiders at this point, I think. Aiden O'Connell, not a good quarterback. 4 touchdowns, 2 picks. Just forget about it. They don't have much to throw to. They don't have much going on. Alexander Madison, 320 yards on the season as a running back. There's nothing there. I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to get the win. They go to 7-6, and they then vault themselves back into the playoff picture as the leader in the NFC South. That's the way I see that one breaking down. Then you've got the Tennessee Titans. They are hosting the Jacksonville Jaguars. Between these two teams, they are 5-19. Last week, Tennessee got dump trucked by Washington. Last week, The Jaguars got knocked off by Houston, but that was completely controversial for the fact that Trevor Lawrence goes down with a concussion. Jacksonville, they're about ready to be just completely eliminated from their misery. Their coach, Doug Peterson's going to get fired. You've got Trevor Lawrence right now still suffering the effects of the concussion. I see maybe Tennessee and Will Levis pulling this one out. I'm going to take Tennessee only for the fact that they're at home. That's the only reason I'm taking Tennessee in this one. When we come back, we'll get to the afternoon games, and we'll get to the Green Bay Packers coming up tomorrow night over in the Motor City taking on the Detroit Lions. Stay tuned. We still got a lot more. Got another full segment yet to go here at Nuts Deep 2 in Marshfield, Wisconsin. We'll be back right after this.
Let we go. This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back to the program. We are at Nuts Deep Tour in Marshfield, Wisconsin, and we thank everybody that came by. By the way, for those that were asking, there's and I got to get this correct because I want to make sure I give them a shout out. 2.5 Cups Cakery, is that the name of the place? And make sure I'm getting this right. They are the ones that made the cake and the cupcakes, and I got to tell you, not only have I thought they're fantastic, but a lot of people around here said, "Oh my God, they're just tremendous." It's some of the best cake I've ever had, and the cupcakes look amazing. I've not had any of those yet, but I certainly will. They gave me a couple to take with me. But thanks to everybody for bringing the cupcakes, and thanks to Ann and Dewey and Andy for supplying all this stuff to everybody tonight, and the staff has been fantastic. Everybody hopefully got something. Thank you very much. Everybody hopefully got something to eat when it comes to birthday celebrations and cakes and cupcakes and all that kind of good stuff. So thanks so much. Get back at it. We got the afternoon games we got to roll through here. Arizona hosting Seattle. Big game. Seattle right now 7-5. They are leading their division, believe it or not. You got Arizona, who's looking to climb up to that point in the division and to be able to claim some head-to-head against them. Last week, the Cardinals, they took a loss 23-22 at Minnesota, if you don't remember. Meanwhile, the Seattle Seahawks, they went into the Meadowlands, and they barely escaped with a win over the Jets. I kid you not, over the Jets. Kyler Murray's playing some good football. They're going to be in Arizona for this one. It's a tough call, but I'm going to take Kyler Murray and the home team. James Conner running the ball pretty well right now. He's approaching 700, 800 yards on the season. He's got 1,074 total yards from the line of scrimmage. Trey McBride's been playing pretty good, but Marvin Harrison Jr., 7 touchdown catches already, 41 receptions, 606 yards. He's not the juggernaut that he was at Ohio State, but he's the focus of every defense as well. But still, I'm going to say Kyler Murray and company narrowly get themselves a win for the battle of the NFC West, and they then will claim the top spot there when the Arizona Cardinals get a win this coming weekend out in Phoenix. Then you've got the Rams also in the hunt, sitting at 6-6. But here comes the 10-2 Buffalo Bills, and I just can't see, short of Buffalo going from complete East Coast all the way down to the West Coast in one of the longest trips that you can make across the country. I can't see Buffalo losing this game after getting that big win the other night in the snow. I want to say that Buffalo gets the win. They go to 11-2. The Rams go to 6-7. Matthew Stafford, who's having a good season, but Josh Allen dwarfing him. 20 touchdowns, 5 picks, quarterback rating of 100.3. James Cook, man, he looked like he was shot out of a cannon the other night in the snow as well. He's running the ball pretty well. And let's not forget Amari Cooper and Josh Allen. They don't have a lot of receptions together, but when they do, they seem to count, and look for Amari Cooper to dent the end zone in that one as well. Then you got the Bears on the road in San Francisco. Again, another head coach in this one. You got Thomas Brown, who was elevated to the offensive coordinator, who now has been elevated to the head coach after Eberflus goes down. The 49ers are reeling with injuries. McCaffrey is now done for the season with the PCL issue. The San Francisco 49ers back at home, they're sitting at 5-7. The Bears sitting at 4-8. Here's what I think. I think the Bears have a good enough defense to win. I think the Bears can get the win in this one. I think they're going to get a bump from not having Matt Eberflus in that locker room anymore because he had pretty much lost the locker room. Thomas Brown gave him a bump offensively, but he's not calling the plays anymore. So, well, he is, but he's now the head coach, and he's got all the responsibility. He went from being an offensive coordinator to being bumped to a head coach all within about a 3-week period. I'm going to say the Bears get a little bit of a jolt out of this one. Bears get to 5 wins, 5-8, and San Francisco will then go to 5-8 as well. Then you got Kansas City back at GEHA Stadium at Arrowhead, and they are taking on the Chargers. This is going to be a good one. The Chargers 8-4 in the season. Kansas City 11-1. Last week, the Chargers go into Atlanta, and they escape with a win, and they also picked off Kirk Cousins 4 times in that ball game. The Chargers, after that game in which the two Harbaugh brothers went at it, when they lost to Baltimore, they come back and they play pretty well. But Justin Herbert, against that Atlanta defense, didn't do a whole lot. But he's only got one pick on the season. Patrick Mahomes, they just continue to get it done. They're 92.2% quarterback rating, I should say. He's 19 touchdowns, but 11 picks. I got a sneaking suspicion that the Chargers could win this game. It's going to be cold, going to be kind of nasty. I'm going to take Kansas City at home just because at home they just figure out ways to win. And I think Kansas City is going to do it again. As much as I think that right now the talent that the Chargers have might be a tick better, I'm still going to take Kansas City because every time I bet against them, they end up eking out a win. This is going to be an interesting game. Coming up on Monday night, Cincinnati at 4-8, taking on Dallas at 5-7. Dallas has a tremendous defense, don't get me wrong. Their offense can't keep up. Cooper Rush, he's good, but he's not great. But Joe Burrow, if Joe Burrow was on any other team, you'd say he would be the MVP this year. Joe Burrow's got a quarterback rating of 107.4, 30 touchdowns, 5 picks. He's thrown for 3,337 yards. He's been fantastic. Jamar Chase, he's got on the season right now, he's got 13 touchdown catches. T. Higgins, 5 of them. He's back and healthy. I think it turns into be a shootout. But the problem is that the Dallas Cowboys are not great offensively, CD Lamb or no CD Lamb. They can run the ball with Dowdle a little bit. that Bengals defense I can't trust. As much as I think Cincinnati's going to win this game, I can't take it because their defense has let me down so much. Cincinnati absolutely positively sucks. So I'm going to take the Dallas Cowboys and Mike McCarthy to get the win at home, and Jerry gets yet another. And they won last week against the Giants. Don't forget the last time out, 27-20. They ended up beating the Giants. So they're riding high right now with a couple of wins. They're starting to feel it a little bit. So now we'll see whether or not they can hold off Cincinnati in this one. And that takes us to tomorrow night's contest between the Packers and the Lions. Packers need this one. They're sitting at 9-3. Lions 11-1. They got a 10-game win streak. And the fact that the Lions are so decimated defensively would really tempt me to take the Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love's starting to feel it, starting to play better. 20 touchdowns, 11 picks. He hasn't thrown a pick in the last couple of games, although he has thrown some up. They just didn't take advantage of. But Jared Goff in that offense is fantastic. But I do keep it in the back of my mind the last time these two teams matched up that the Packers defensively were able to stymie Jared Goff and company. I reluctantly do this because when I pick them on the road, they end up losing. And I hate to do this, but I'm going to be honest. I think the Packers are going to win this game. I think last year they got right. They felt good. They started to win some ball games. They look good against Miami in the cold. I think when they finally get to the friendly combines inside, they play in a dome. They feel a little bit faster, a little bit quicker, even without some of their defenders. I'm going to take the Green Bay Packers to get a win in this one to the tune of about 27-17, 27-20, something like that. And the Packers look pretty strong in that contest as well. Dewey, wherever you're at, Dewey and Ann and Andy, Katie, our bartender, thanks so much for having us out here. Thanks to Caleb and WOSQ Radio for having us out here from ESPN. To everybody that stopped by, Tyler, who just came by and said hello. Thanks to everybody for coming out and celebrating tonight, birthday-wise as well. Time for us to go. Have a great one until we talk again tomorrow at 10 a.m. Central Time. And we'll be talking a lot of Packers, a lot of Lions, and then the Green and Gold postgame show tomorrow night with